白马山五仙庙，这是魏成宁。From the White Horse Mountain in the Five Immortal Temple, this is Lindsey Wei. My Taoist name is 魏成宁。我是春阳门24代的弟子。I am a 24th generation disciple of the Pyongyang sect of Taoism. At this stage of my life, I am an at-home practitioner. 我是俗家弟子。I will read some of the opening passages of my book, 古神, or The Valley Spirit. It begins with a quote from the Tao Te Ching, chapter 6, and quotes from the goddess in the Gnostic text, Thunder Perfect Mind. It also includes excerpts from the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. The Valley Spirit never dies. We call it the mysterious female. The gateway of the mysterious female is called the root of heaven and earth. Dimly visible, it seems as if it were there, yet use will never drain it. I move through life seeking what it is to be a woman, for I am the first and the last. I look at everything to find this answer, this image. For the early 20 years of my life, it seemed I lived in a dry desert of womanhood. I didn't even know of any woman to look to. Or worse, I looked to men to understand what a woman was. The ways of the women who I saw, who I imitated, did not fulfill me, though at times may have felt as if they did. Only trained me as a temptress, forever ice-like and working with illusory power. I am the honored one and the scorned one. I am the whore and the holy one. That is why I cried at the age of 24, when I found the Gospel of Mary Magdalene and other Gnostic texts. I am the wife and the virgin. That is why I cried when I read about Sun Boar of the Seven Perfected, who splashed her face with hot oil. I am shame and boldness. I am shameless. I am ashamed. I didn't even know that there was such a world of female ancestors, and the wisdom they told I heard with new ears, as if having never heard before. I heard both wise and foolish men say that woman is weak. This I could not accept. I heard the goddess say woman is weak, and I felt unlimited. In my weakness, do not forsake me, and do not be afraid of my power. For why do you despise my fear and curse my pride? But I am she who exists in all fears, and strength in trembling. I am she who is weak, and I am well in a pleasant place. I am senseless and I am wise. Taoism says there is yin and there is yang. Yin is the feminine, the dark, impure or opaque. It is the earth. Histories upon histories of patriarchy have misunderstood this, associating it with the human perception of bad or evil. In Taoist alchemy it is said that for a woman to cultivate immortality she must first return to neither man nor woman. She must become the Pyongyang body of light, androgynous and luminous. Her menstrual fluid will discontinue its flow, her breasts will withdraw back into her chest, and that which was darkness will turn into light. I am sinless, and the root of sin derives from me. I am lust in outward appearance, and interior self-control exists within me. Men are no different, though already associated with the yang principle. In fact, it takes a man longer to reach the state of pure yang than it does for a woman, because although woman is the manifestation of yin in her outer form, she is yang within. I am the silence that is incomprehensible, and the idea whose remembrance is frequent. Most of my life so far is caught in the swirling red dust. It is filled with emotion and ambition. Aside from the time I spend at the temple on a mountain where I can quiet down. Aside from the moments when my spirit speaks to me from some distant place, I am stuck in turbidity and the constant question of what it is to be a woman in this world. What it is to be a woman with a holy calling coupled with the instinct to be a mother. I am part of this world of dichotomy, of yin and yang, man and woman, heaven and earth, light and dark, and its endless interplay. closer I get to understanding, the more I look back and laugh at the struggle, then perhaps find myself in it again, and so on. There are moments when I can jump out of that desperate clinging to identity. In those moments I am neither female nor male, neither cherished nor defiled. Taoists say that from a very high perspective there is really no difference between the cultivation for a woman and for a man. From the perspective of the average person, however, living in our modern culture, who defines themselves by their identity and sexuality in all aspects of their being and nature, the two paths could seem to be very different indeed. Whether man or woman, we eat when we are hungry, drink when thirsty, breathe air for life, and make love to procreate. We walk step by step through the beauty of the wilderness, hour by hour towards our graves, burning up the oil of life to feed the fire. And what would it take to undo such a cycle of life and death? And would we really want to? It would take the forgetting of all desire. Desire. Then Mary stood up, greeted them all, and said to her brethren, "Do not weep, and do not grieve, nor be irresolute, for his grace will be entirely with you, and will protect you. But rather let us praise his greatness, for he has prepared us and made us into men." When Mary said this, she turned their hearts to the good, and they began to discuss the words of the Savior. Peter said to Mary, "Sister, we know that the Savior loved you more than the rest of women. Tell us the words of the Savior which you remember, which you know, but we do not, nor have we heard them." Mary answered and said, "What is hidden from you I will proclaim to you." And she began to speak to them these words. "I," she said, "I saw the Lord in a vision, and I said to him, 'Lord, I saw you today in a vision.' He answered and said, 'Blessed are you that you did not waver at the sight of me, for where there is the mind, there is the treasure.' I said to him, 'Lord, how does he who sees the vision see it, through the soul or through the spirit?' The Savior answered and said, 'He does not see it through the soul nor through the spirit, but the mind that is between the two. That is what sees the vision.'" And Desire said, "I did not see you descending, but now I see you ascending. Why do you lie, since you belong to me?" The Soul answered and said, "I saw you, you did not see me, nor recognize me. I served you as a garment, and you did not know me." I cried because the gospel was buried in Nag Hammadi for so long. I cried because it resembled so clearly the impossible task that the great ones past have given their lives for, no matter in what religion. I cried because it was the sacred teachings of the Tao, but in the Christian language I grew up with. I cried because I had never heard the words of a woman before, and for the first time I heard the teachings through the ears of the daughter. All along I perceived I was in that arid desert of man, when really the goddesses were in me, calling to me, watching over me. Only later do I realize their presence having always been there. Hear me in gentleness and learn of me in roughness. Everything I write here is truly a place of ignorance and desire, from a young woman caught between the 7 powers. When I am a grandmother I will look back and laugh perhaps, though it is a story all the same, the story of the battle of soul and spirit, and what small visions we have received in between. One day I asked Li Shifu when it was he first had the notion to become a Taoist renunciant. He said such a thing does not occur in a single moment. It has been occurring as far back as I can remember. When he left his life behind, he thought it would take him 3 to 5 years to reach enlightenment. Now it is nearly 15 years later, and he says he has hardly even passed the beginning. I was not properly prepared in myself, so I remain in society's clutch to grind my thoughts and desires until I am ready. We were sitting by the wood stove having this conversation. He told me that your teachers, pointing upwards, would test you along the way. They are the unseen witnesses at all times. They see your true motives. Just then the light bulb flickered and the power went out. It did not break his concentration. His face, now lit by the fire glow, was deep in thought. He was thinking about the past. I said jokingly to bring him back to the conversation, "Your teachers are testing you," pointing to the dead lights. "They've tested me too many times," he said, still not breaking his gaze into the fire. "I was very anxious before. I failed all of their tests. I began to hate myself." I said nothing in reply, and we sat in a melancholy silence. I've heard it said before that the closer we get to the light, the more the darkness seeks us out. Li Shifu himself says that once you embark on this path, your demons will seek you out. Wherever you are weak, wherever you have want, they will find it and live there. I thought to myself, if this path does not return you to what is real, then it might just drive you mad. With a heart in a cage and a mind with flaw, depression lurks in life's chains. When Zhenwu Dadi was in the caves of Wudang, he reached a point in his cultivation where his thoughts had run wild. Frustration grew strong inside of him. It had been 20 years of isolation and practice, and he saw himself as having gotten nowhere. He picked up his sack of belongings and began to walk down the mountain. He had resolved to return to his home and life in society. He was giving up. It was a few days' walk out of the mountains, and along the way he came upon a little old woman hunched over a stone. He ventured closer to her and saw that she was grinding something. It was a large piece of metal upon a stone slab, which she ground with a stone roller, rolling back and forth over the top of it with a slow and steady rhythm. Zhenwu knelt over and lightly touched the woman on her shoulder to get her attention. She stopped her work and turned around. "What are you doing, grandmother?" She had a wrinkled face and but a few teeth which shone through her smile. She chuckled and looked into him with her aged and cloudy eyes. "I am grinding this metal into a needle." Zhenwu looked again at the large bar of metal. "But that will take forever." "Yes, it will." And she turned back to her grinding. Zhenwu slowly backed away, and suddenly he realized that he had much further to go before his mind could be as slender and sharp as a needle ground by stone. Much further to go before he could grind away the baggage on his back to fit through the narrow gates of heaven. He returned to his cultivation, and at that spot where he saw this vision, the people later built a temple and called it "The Dragon Returns."